Hello everybody, this is Jen from Scrapping Posh and I am here with part 2 of the Haunted Mansion tutorial. Good news is it's after this hour tutorial there's only 2 left, so we'll be halfway done essentially. I tried to put a disclaimer or little note in my first 2 videos, the tutorial in the prep video, that you'll need 2 of these floors, and that's because I forgot that the top of the house needs support, and it's important to put this floor on here. I know in the first video I'm like, oh, you don't need 2 of those. Yeah, you do. I had forgotten because you can't see it. So this here, I put this together the same way I put the floor together, and then I put the little hinges on the bottom side so that it can go to the very top of the house and support all that. And then after I get these hinges on here, I decide that since this is so readily accessible, I use this as the template to cut my flooring, my pattern paper for flooring. So you'll see that here in a minute. Now at this point, and I cut some of it out because essentially it was all the same, putting the walls up. At this point you want all the side walls and front wall on your mansion. The back you don't want on yet because, one, you want this piece here to be able to support the top of your back. Otherwise there would be only like a very small part to hinge that on. So here you see me, I'm just measuring, making sure that everything's correct, and measuring for the flooring for the pattern paper. So after we get this part on, it really stabilizes the structure, and then it gives it just in the, when we put the middle part in the wall, it finalizes that stability. So here I'm just taking these 2 pieces of pattern paper, and I use the orange checkered pattern. You can use any pattern you want. I just thought that this lent itself to the look of a tile floor, an old style tile floor. Maybe it wouldn't be orange, but I like it. And you can get 2 floors out of 2 6, or both these floor pieces out of 2 6x6 pattern papers. Get that out. And because the part that you just cut off of the left side can fill up that part on the right side. And I'm just using the checkers on the paper to cut straight lines. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to cut a straight line without a ruler or some kind of line. So I have to do it several times even with the checkers on there. So now that this is all pieced together, I'll ink the floor, and this is going to go not on this top piece here, but it's the same, it measures the same as the bottom piece, and that's where this flooring is going to go. So when I piece together paper like I just did those 2 pieces, I don't ink between the piece, because then you would be able to tell it was a seam. And this is far enough in the front of the house that you can't see it at all. Now, when I went to put it in there, I was just a little bit wide. And then I just use ATG tape to put that together. And sorry, I'm a little bit out of frame, but this is a big project, so I do end up out of frame quite a bit. So you got your flooring, and there's a wall. That wall that we cut goes in the center of that, so it's going to cover up that big seam there. And then I'm going to take the top, I'm going to call it a top floor. It's really the ceiling, I guess, and kind of start gluing this on. And you can see how the house is kind of warped and not actually straight. Well, putting this piece on is going to straighten that all out, and like I said before, make it more structurally sound. So I put glue on some of these hinges. It looks like probably most of them on the left hand side. I'll get those all stuck down. I'm going to put the right hand side on there, and then I cut it out, but you just hold it until it sticks together. It took a little bit of time for that, because essentially you're just kind of manipulating that chipboard to stick to the gussets. So you're holding those gussets for a good, 30 seconds to a minute. Now, because we have the raised siding on there, this was not an easy task, so I tried to find several different ways to do it. This one is ATG tape, or not ATG, but score tape, and it works fine on the ones that go horizontally with the siding, but it doesn't stick very well to the ones that go up the side. So I actually do end up using glue for that. You just have to hold it in place for a while for it to stick. So what we're going to do is we're going to frame the entire mansion with these black gussets, and it just gives it a finished look, and it also holds it together. And like I said, I just use scraps for these. They're 1-inch strips of paper with a 1/2 inch scored at a 1/2 inch, and they go on every corner, with the exception, I don't think I put them on the top because we're going to cover the top. You can see at this point that the whole project is really starting to come together, as far as the structure looking like a building, and it still, I mean, it needs decorated still, but you can tell what it is at this point. So it's a little like gratification when you're working on something like this and you can start telling what it looks, or what it's supposed to look like. I don't think I make you sit through all of this. So, for you Graphic 45 fans out there, I'm a huge Graphic 45 fan. I just scored some Midnight Masquerade paper on clearance or not on clearance, but on sale at Joann Fabrics. So go to joannfabrics.com. It was like less than $10 for the 8x8 paper pack. And I think it was like $12 for the 12x12 paper pack. They also have the ABC Primer Collector's Edition. So that's cool. Now I'm just pre-cutting these pieces to 8 1/4 for the, I guess I do use score tape on those. Okay, so I guess I decide score tape's gonna work better than glue, so you guys do whatever works for you. These are for the front, and they're going like against the grain of the siding, so I thought that maybe glue would be better for that, but it looks like I use score tape. Making the hinge point on the back for the back panel is such a pain, just so you guys know. Okay, so yeah, it looks like it's stuck pretty good there. And then this is the one with the bay window, and I'm cutting out the I tried to give you a better view there, but anyways, the bay window, you have to do the same thing you did on the inside and cut that part of the hinge off so it doesn't overlap the window. Now I'm starting the top of the tower. And for the top of the tower, I don't remember. I make, this is going, this sits directly on top of that other part, but it was a 1/4 inch too big to cut complete out of a 12 by 12 piece of paper or cardstock or chipboard. So I ended up making it 2 parts. So in order to kind of make those seamless, I used a border strip to kind of frame it. So here I'm just gonna make the complete turret and then glue the bottoms, glue the gussets on the bottom and then stick it to the top that way. And you see me using score tape here instead of glue. It doesn't really matter. And then I'll stick that right on top. And then, like I said, I'm gonna use a border strip to cover the seam. Sorry if I stutter and stuff. I'm trying to get this done before work so you guys can keep working on the project. Even though with the prep video, I think you have a couple days worth of stuff, because I know it took me 2 or 3 days just to cut the chipboard. So hopefully you're not waiting on me for any of these videos. If you guys have any comments or questions or concerns, or you want me to do something different in these videos, if you want me to speed them up or slow them down or anything, just let me know and I can accommodate. So there's that top turret, and I'm just trying to square it up because it's a little weird shaped. And then I'm looking at it, I'm trying to figure out what in the world am I going to do with this, but because there is this huge gap. Now, so here I am trying to figure out the roof. So I think that what I'm doing right here with this piece of paper is, oh, okay, so this is hard to explain. The roof, the outline of the roof is the outline of the bottom floor minus the turret, which is what you see I cut out of this piece of paper. Now, of course, I didn't do the whole roof. I just want that profile. So you see how that fits? That essentially is the profile of the roof now. So if you take your floor, you take the turret off, you have the layout for the top of your roof. The bottom of the roof sticks out about 1 inch on each side. So this is your template for the top of your roof. So if you've seen how I did that, hopefully. And I'm just double checking some measurements here. And then here I'm like, okay, yeah, that will work, but I want my roof to overhang I think it's an inch on all sides. So here I start giving you some measurements for the sides of the roof that we're doing, and I just pieced together the bottom of this roof. So take note of the dimensions that I'm using here. And that's the left side of the roof, and that will stick out. You see how it sticks out. I think maybe it's a ½ inch or 3/4 of an inch. I think it's 3/4 of an inch. So you see in the top of the roof template sitting on top of the base of the roof, which sticks out on all sides with the exception of the turret. And this, my friends, is how we figure out the roof. And like I said at the beginning, I really have no idea what the dimensions are, but I do try and give them to you in here. So this is the roof, just like that, and then I'm putting this template on the top, and it doesn't go like that. I don't know why I did that. Now, in order to kind of stick this together and give myself a good idea, I just use this template and stick it right on top. It's a little weird, but it works. And it's not exactly how that's gonna go, but I didn't want to pull that paper all the way to the front where the top of the roof will go, because you'll see that. So you see how I place it there, and that's exactly the way your roof should look. So here I'm just finishing up this little tower. I'm confident that it will work now. And I want to make sure before I put the roof on that it will fit in that little hole, because I just want to eliminate any interference that we may have. I hope this I'm not trying to be confusing or evasive or anything. This is like literally my process. So I put it on there, and I don't know what I'm doing. Oh, I'm going to cut a piece for the top, I think, is what I'm doing. Or 2 pieces. Okay, yeah, so the piece for the top of the roof here, I forgot this has a separate roof on it. So you need to do the same thing with this little piece as you just did with the big piece. And that little square there is like 2 7/8 by 2 7/8. And then you just take and stick it on there. And that's not the top, that's the bottom. So now as I'm putting this on, I think to myself, I want lights in this. So in order to accommodate that, I end up poking holes in it, but I haven't figured that part out. Okay, so while I was thinking about that, I always do other things to occupy my time and still be productive. So we're going to put this wall in, and it goes right in the middle, and it should cover the seam of your 6x6 paper. So it's like 6 inches in from either side. And that really it gives sound structure to the house going vertically. It was already pretty good going horizontally, but now we got some stuff in there to hold it up. Okay, so here I go, back to the roof. And I am still thinking. I decided that this side is a little too long. I take, looks like 1/4 or 1/2 inch off of that. Okay. And you just see me kind of fitting this up. Oh, and then I got a huge glob of glue that I didn't mean to get on there, so I used that extra piece of chipboard. It wasn't measured at any specific part or at any specific size. It was just that I wanted the roof to fit snug, and I put that extra piece of chipboard on there because it actually gave me a chipboard width between the turret top and the bottom. So I'm cutting that off a little bit. So lots of glue on this, but so that smaller piece of chipboard that I put right there goes on that piece that sticks out, and then I will glue the turret on top of that, and that will make it so the roof slides under that turret. So that way you don't have to cut that exact. You have some wiggle room. So there's a chipboard width between the bottom of that turret and the top of the rest of the house. And then the roof kind of just slides underneath that turret. Okay, so here I am. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I should show you in a second. I think okay, so I'm putting the hinges under the roof to attach the roof to the house. So just like I did on the bottom, I'm doing it to the top. And hopefully I show you that here in a minute, and knowing that you can't see it. And then I do the same to this turret, although you won't be able to see this because it's going to be covered by the roof, but it gives it structure. Okay, so you can see where I did those other parts there. Okay, now you're going to see, you won't see this part of the roof because it will be, or you won't see where the white is because it'll be covered, but you're going to see all the way around the four sides. You'll be able to see the sides of the roof. So you don't really have to paint like I just did. You won't be able to see that part, but you do want to paint or use marker on the sides and underneath the overhang that won't be covered. We're going to put some trim up that will make it harder to see underneath, but if you flip it upside down, you'll be able to see it. So I'm just using black acrylic paint to finish off the edges there of the brown, the craft colored chipboard. And then I'm using these leftover pieces of floor that I didn't need to cover the rest of it. And I'm doing that because when you look in the windows, you'll be able to see the white if you don't. So it's important to go ahead and cover the rest of this. And if you didn't want to put paper on it, you didn't have to. You can just paint the whole thing. I just like the finished look of the paper. So, and I'm just piecing it together because, again, the only way you're going to see this is through the little windows. And then I finish off anywhere where you can see white with a black acrylic paint. what else do we do here? And that's all finished. Now, I'm going to go ahead and paint the inside of this tower too. And I don't know that I cover it with paper, but you definitely can. So at this point, or even before this, if you guys were going to wallpaper the inside by using the templates to cut some pattern paper, now, like, don't wait any longer. Go ahead and do that because, yeah, it will be harder. The longer you do this, the harder it is to get inside. And you see how the sides are bowed in a little bit? We're going to put flooring across that, so no worries. We'll fix that. Before we put the back on, we're going to fix all that. But yeah, definitely if you're going to decorate the inside, now's the time to decorate. And secondly, if you're going to put the lights in, now's the time to put the holes in for your lights. Don't wait until the end and then try and poke holes through 3 or 4 layers of chipboard like I did. So if you're gonna put, you have to put light holes wherever you want the lights to go. So through the top of that tower, there's 3 layers of chipboard there now. Yeah, I had to poke a hole through that afterwards. So the glue held up great. It didn't come apart or anything, but it would have just been easier to do it while I was going. So take note. And then, so I'm just kind of checking out and thinking to myself as I'm doing this, what else, where else will you see inside? And you just seen me add some white acrylic paint to where I was already painting in black, and I was kind of debating on whether I was going to use paper inside, and then I decided haunted houses or even old houses that haven't been taken care of have like this mottled paint wallpaper look, plaster falling off and stuff. So I just added some white paint to the palette that already had the black on it, and I'm painting very roughly all around the walls, and I'm even adding some of that black paint in to give it that rough look. And I use I just give it a rough coat. You can still see kind of like the chipboard underneath it a little bit, but I like that look. And then later on, like in the very last video while I'm decorating, we add some wallpaper. Now, these are the 2 small strips, and I just pieced them together the same way I did everything else. And then I'm using the hinge to hold them on, and then I'm hinging the inside. Of course, I let the inside paint dry before I try gluing this on. And it's important to get these small hinges in there because there's not a lot holding it on. So inside and out, these little tiny hinges on the sides. Because the smaller you get when you're adding these parts on here, the harder it is to kind of keep them on. And this is also going to add strength. Well, every time you put a piece on at a 90-degree angle, it adds strength to the structure. It's kind of like a gusset. So that was the inside. I got both of those insides down in the corners, and then these are going to go on the outside. And that part was simple enough, but let me tell you what, when we get to hinging those doors on, it is a bear. And the other thing I didn't tell you that you need, but when we do put the back on where essentially they're doors because they open up, I use Tyvek. You can use Tyvek, duct tape, anything that won't rip. Craft X if you have Craft X. Now I decided now to address the caving in of the walls on the side, and I'm just using 2 squares, and I think I give you the measurements here. I don't use the essential. Before I was going to use the actual floor pattern, but I decided that you didn't need that kind of structure in the front where it makes the what has the 3/4 inch part that sticks out. So I just make squares, and that allows me to later on run the lights up through the front. So just measure it to fit. I think it's not 6 because of the width of the chipboard. I think it's like 5 7/8. But just measure to make sure that you know they fit, and that that bulge, that, well, it doesn't bulge out, but it doesn't suck in anymore. And then on the floors, so I put it in there, and I'm like, yeah, that's exactly the way I want it. It doesn't stick out. And you put the other side in too, so you make sure that neither side bulges out. But you want hinges on top and bottoms of the floors. Okay, make sure that it's straight, because if it's not, well, if it was me and it's not straight, it would drive me nuts. I mean, I know it's a haunted house and it's supposed to be kind of crookedy, but a crooked floor I don't think I could deal with. And then again with this side, hinges on both top and bottom. You guys would be surprised of how sturdy paper can get once you add enough layers and hinges and gussets onto it. And again, if you guys didn't want to use score tape on this part, you could definitely use wet glue. I've not had issues with either one. So there you see the floors in, and the building is square, which yay. And now I'm doing to the top the same thing that I already did to the bottom. Just note that when you're putting this piece on, it you have to cut a little relief in the gusset for the wall. Otherwise, you won't get full adhesion in the center of that wall. And again, inside and out with the small gussets or hinges. And the more layers that we add to this, again, just the more sturdy it is. So I'm taking some measurements now, making sure that everything's gonna fit, and I decide that I need to go to the roof because it's making me that part's I'm thinking about how I'm going to attach this. So you can see that piece of chipboard. I've painted it or used marker on it all to make it black, and I cut the center of it out. Like I said before, I want to be able to see the lights through that. Now you take this weird shaped piece, you add gussets to the bottom, and then you cut the part that you can see out. Because we're going to put those windows in there. And this is probably one of the harder parts, because after you get this stuck down, you have to kind of squeeze together those sides that aren't straight. You see, and you'll see what I end up doing. Now, I gave you the choice at the beginning if you wanted to put, you know, just straight 45 degrees in there, then you could gusset these on the inside too. But since I wanted it curvy, it presents a bit of a problem. So if you had the 45 degrees, it would look just like that. Now I'm saying, okay, how am I going to do this? So I take my glue, and this is Scotch Quick Dry adhesive, and it does do a great job. So you just go up the seam, and the seam's going to be covered by shingles, so, and you have to hold it for a while. But you have to make sure the sides are touching. If the sides aren't touching, it's, or, you know, they're only touching in a couple places, it's not going to work. So you see me filling in the gaps here as I'm doing this. And then you hold it together. And this, I mean, you're talking 2 or 3 minutes, because it's not just holding it together, but that paper is moving in the opposite direction. So I got tired of holding it. I decided I was going to washi tape it. So I take and push it together the way it's supposed to be, and I washi tape both sides. And again, we're covering that with shingles, so you know, if it leaves a little bit of mess, I'm good with that. And it takes me a while to figure this out. You can't go up vertically because it doesn't, the washi tape doesn't want to bend that way. So you just take a couple strips and you put them on horizontally. And then I do that to all 4 sides. And it actually works. Now I'm just filling in the gaps there with the glue. And then when it dries, because I have that washi tape on some of it, when it dries, I take the washi tape off and I fill the rest of it in with glue so it doesn't like pop. Because we're totally manipulating the paper in a way that it doesn't want to go. It wants to go straight, and we're making it curved. So this definitely let dry all the way. Don't try and mess with this. And then I had some gaps down at the bottom after I put the glue on, so I went ahead and taped those together too. Okay, so essentially, and that's how we do and that's how we do most of the roof. So that is a bit of a bear. So, and that's what it looks like when it's on. And now I'm going to try and go back to these sides. Before I start the sides, I'm going to revise what I just said. I guess I end up leaving the washi tape on the roof, which is okay because we put shingles on it. And you guys will see that here in a little bit. Now, for the sides, this takes several times to get this correct. But in the end, what I end up with is the hinge on, or the hinge and the washi tape, or I'm sorry, the hinge and the Tyvek. I have a strip of Tyvek on there going to the outside of the house. Now, here I have a double hinge, one on the inside and one on the outside. That doesn't really work that great. And it's just, this just takes several tries to figure it out. And so, like I said, ultimately, I do cut the corners at an angle, and then I move on to something else. So you see over there I have a little packet of LED lights, and now I'm poking a hole in the top of this to feed those LED lights through. And if I had thought of this beforehand, it would have been a lot easier. So note, you know, before you put this on, just leave a little hole. I do use that hole, but it would have been easier if I would have made a bigger one. Also put the hole in the turret beforehand. Okay, so there's a strip of Tyvek, so I decided to go with the Tyvek. And Tyvek is a paper that has fibers in it, and you can get it from just like envelopes and office supply stores. I had bought some Tyvek, and then turns out I have a customer at work that uses Tyvek, large Tyvek envelopes. I'll never buy Tyvek again because every time they send in an envelope, I keep it. Otherwise, it would just be thrown away. So, yay, recycle, reuse. Okay, so now what I did was I backed a hinge, and I used this. This hinge is a 1/2 inch on the wall side, and then it's 1 inch. I made the hinge bigger because you can see there's 2 strips of washi. A 1 inch hinge to grab onto the outside of the house. And I think that gives me what I need as far as having something to grab onto. Like real hinges, like metal hinges, may have worked. I think maybe I'll try that next time to see, what happens. But I'm trying to line up those walls now. And it's kind of hard to line them up because they're a little big. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get 2 hinges and put magnets in them so I can make flaps on either side of that wall that'll overlap, and the magnets will stick to each other, because otherwise that'll just be open and kind of flopping around. So first thing we do is take those look like 1 inch strips, and I cover those with score tape. And these need to be strong because they're going to have the magnets in them, so you want the magnets to not like come out the side of the tape. So you see I'm just sticking the magnets on there now. And I always put a dot of glue on the magnet for extra reinforcement. And there you go, you just kind of secure it to the inside, and then you sandwich this one on top, and that gives you what you need. And then I put the magnets on there to make sure that they're polarized. I don't know do you call it polarized? They're polarized correctly, but you know what I mean, so that they don't repel instead of attract. And that is where the magnets need to be, and it's like under the paper, so I line up those 2 pieces of paper, and then I stick the magnets down to the washi tape, to the hinge, and then sandwich the other hinge on top. So those magnets actually sit on the wall a little bit inside, but that's okay. And I just clean up the edges. And you can decorate those on the 221B Baker Street. I think I decorated those with one of the strips that had the flower vines on it. So you can definitely decorate those. Looks like I'm going to put washi tape on mine just to fancy it up and to make sure that those magnets don't come out the side. Just remember that anything that you put between the magnets lessens the strength of the magnets. So I'm still not happy with that, and later on I'll end up adding a magnet tab to the inside, which is just a piece of washi tape with a magnet on it. So I think I'm building up like my resolve to finish that roof, because that little tiny piece was like so intense. I guess you can say it's intense, that I am just dreading the rest of the roof. And you can see I'm just like getting all my roof pieces together. Okay, and as I told you before, this roof template that I have here is not the right size. I think it's the right size, but I did delete it from the files because it was not. So here in a minute I'll show you how I figure it out, and you can do what I did and make your own roof template the same way I did. So you get to do everything just like I did, minus hopefully the mistakes, so that you don't have to redo something. So in order to figure it out, and because it didn't fit. So what I did was I just took each of the roof pieces and I laid them out the way that they were supposed to go, and the internal parts of those are what you need to, to make the top of the roof. So I'm just using some washi tape here to hold these two pieces together, and the whole roof is going to be washi tape, so that's going to be like a permanent fixture. So now you can just see that I'm lining up all these different pieces. And then this is the large piece in the back that you have to put together. And I used a piece of cardstock on one side to kind of give it some strength, and then I used washi tape on the other side. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and put the whole roof together with washi tape, because it gives you the flexibility you need. And obviously you don't have to use graphic 45 washi tape. You could use masking tape if you wanted to. Anything that I don't know that I would use Scotch tape because it's not as flexible, but masking tape and washi tape kind of folds easy. But I mean, you can try Scotch tape. I don't know if it'll work or not. So I just put tape on there, and then I butt the edges up to each other, making sure they line up in the corner. And don't, you want to try not to cover up the window holes. And honestly, if you cover the top of the window holes, it wouldn't be such a big deal, because you can't see that part. So I wouldn't stress about it too much. We're going to put those little window boxes on there. Now you notice anywhere there's a straight line on the house, the window frame has a straight line too. I think I lost something. Yeah, did you see me? I was like, what the? I'll have to double check the cut file. So I'm showing you now how you can just trace out a piece to make that extra window. And that would be the same thing that you do to trace out the template. So I just take a white gel pen, trace it out on the black cardstock, and cut it out, and then use my X-Acto knife for the window. And it is fairly simple. So, and I'm confused for a minute, and then I realized, nope, that's the way it needs to be. So, and the model house actually helps when you're trying to figure things out like that. Okay, and now we are on to the arduous task of putting these corners together. So I use the same washi tape thing. And when I told you before that I take the washi tape off, I don't. I continue, I leave the washi tape on. So and I am trying really hard to figure out this this like one piece that goes from, well, I think it goes from flat to curve, but it doesn't. It goes from curve to curve. So the piece that I have in the silhouette file should work. I may change my mind here because this one is a flat to curve. So what I did was I found that extra part that I needed, that I made, and I cut the window off of it, which gave me a curve. So let's see here if this works. And you noticed I have the rest of the roof put together at this point. This is the last piece. I am trying so hard to figure this out. Do I ditch that idea and go to my curve to curve? So yeah, this was one of those things that was kind of trial and error. So I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so how does this look on here? Because I have to attach all this to the bottom of this roof, so it does need to meet the profile of the roof also. And this is the part that I cut off the window. And this is how I solved this problem, and it is totally not technical. I have the same shape as the window. Because I used the piece that I had cut off of the other window, and I line it up to the outside of the top of the roof. And I tell myself, this is the profile that it has to fit. It has to, there. It has to line up with the top of the roof. So I go ahead and tape that down. And then, so as long as you have a curve on that, the same curve as the rest of it, you tape that down, and then if it should stick out about an inch from the bottom. You see my side view there. And then you can tape the other part to it. I'm just going to reinforce that with glue. And reinforce it with some more washi tape because this one's being manipulated a little bit more than the rest. Okay, and then I take my outside and I do the same thing with that I've been doing with all the other. Line it up. And washi tape it together. And that, my friends, is the most complicated part of this house, is trying to figure out that step for the roof. And I don't know, it still doesn't look quite right, but we're gonna leave it like that. And then I just reinforce the inside with a bead of glue like I did all the other corners. One thing I may suggest that I did not do is put a some kind of piece of paper right through the middle of the roof that goes from top to bottom to kind of reinforce the middle part. Okay, so now we're moving on to the bay window. And you've seen the different parts that I have there. It's the actual window and then the top and bottom. And I just use washi tape to adhere those together in the middle. And now I'm going to use glue for the rest of it. Oh, no, I use washi tape. Okay, so I use washi tape on the inside, and then I'm going to use glue on the outside. I have my X-Acto knife there, but that's just to get into the corners. Okay, and then I just put a drop of glue along the sides. And you can see the glue when the whole thing's put together, but I don't mind. It has, you know, it's a little shiny, but it's clear. And then you can see here, I tore that piece off the top and put a hole through the bottom of it. And now I'm going to glue it back together. Actually, I tore everything off the top of the roof at this point and put a hole through it. Yeah. So, you may be able to have put the roof on while it was on the building. Obviously, I felt that it was better to do it off of the building. So I just take washi tape along the outside, along the inside edge, and just start washi taping the roof to that bottom panel. So I washi tape front and back, and that's what holds the roof on. If you never thought you were going to use all your washi tape, think again. We're going to use some washi tape now. Now on the inside corners here, I just put it down, and then I use that hole in the middle to secure the washi tape down from the inside. And then I do the outside. And that's the corners are kind of wonky, but they work. And I think that the bottom of the roof actually sticks out like a tiny bit more. And see how the bottom of the roof sticks out like a 1/4 of an inch right there? Sorry, I'm not in frame, guys. Like I said, this project is big. So I'm just sticking it to it sticks out, the roof sticks out about a 1/4 inch. And I thought about putting like a little fence up there, which would have been great, but I didn't have a die. I didn't have a die or a punch, so I skipped the fence. And the Cameo didn't like the way that the fence that I had cut, like at that small, because it would have only been like 3/4 of an inch high, and it was like this gothic fence with little posts on the top, and it didn't want to cut that. So that's the best I could do for the roof tutorial, you guys. I'm sorry if it was confusing. If you need me to like go over it again if you just have issues and you just can't make that work. Let me know, and I can make another one and we can do it together. But yeah, so that was the roof tutorial. You just kind of washi tape it all together. Now I'm gonna glue that back on. So I know it fits because I just took it off before I put the actual roof on. So I'm coming up to the end of the video here, and what we're going to do is, after we put the roof on, it looks like I'm going to start putting the bay windows in, or the little window boxes, and then I will start putting all the window frames and door frames on. You've seen that I put the front door frame on the floor. And yeah, congratulations on finishing the roof if you successfully did that. Like I said before, if it was a problem, then, you know, definitely let me know and we can try and do it again together. Now, in adhering this down, I put score tape all around the bottom, and then I put it on the sides here where I'm adhering it to the turret. Is it called a turret? I don't know. The thing that's sticking out. So I definitely suggest putting the roof on before you put like the bay window and stuff in, and the porch. The bay window, the porch, and the steps are all made from just cardstock, same as the roof. But once you put those items on, it gets to the point where you have to kind of be careful about where you set, because it's not, you know, it's not chipboard, it's just cardstock, so it could smash. So now I'm going to put the roof on, or the roof on the turret, or whatever that thing is called that I keep calling a turret. And yep, it's just the same as the rest of it, just 4 hinges, one on each side, and then you place the roof square on top, and you rub those, or you know, push those down to, and that one stuck out a little bit. I didn't get it. I'm going to say that I just didn't get it square on there, so I had 2 of my 1/2 inch hinges that were not square. So and there's my little windows. I already put the window frames on those, and obviously if you, or no, I haven't. No, there's the little window frames. If you haven't put if you don't have, you know, a die or whatever to put those on, or to make those, or something similar, maybe using those little window frames isn't the best idea. Okay, I'm coming to the end, but before I stop, I want to say, I wish I had covered each one of those windows in the siding, so that it had more contrast from the roof. And here I'm just showing you a close-up of how I'm going to put these windows in, using washi tape on the bottom and the sides, and I just stick them in the hole, and then I secure them with glue. So okay, you guys, this is part 2 tutorial done, and we will continue on in our part 3 tutorial. And again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Leave a message on this video, or you can email me at scrappingposh@gmail.com. And here I'm just decorating the roof, so lots of things going on in this video. Alright everybody, I truly appreciate everything, and if you have any questions, again, please don't hesitate to ask. If you've gotten this far, I want you to have a successful project. So I thank you very much, and have a great day.